The underestimated fleet. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge of the EDF Dauntless, watching the vast starfield through the reinforced viewports. Her ship, humanity's pride and the flagship of Earth's nascent interstellar fleet, hummed with the reassuring vibration of fusion engines and spinning gyros. The Dauntless was functional, sturdy, and by the standards of their new galactic neighbors, hopelessly outdated. "Status report," she said, her voice steady despite the tension coiling in her stomach. Commander Jackson looked up from his console. "All systems nominal, Captain. The fleet is maintaining formation. The Xanteri diplomatic vessel has acknowledged our approach and granted docking clearance." Reyes nodded, adjusting the collar of her uniform. This would be humanity's formal introduction to the Galactic Concord, and the Xanteri Confederation had graciously offered to sponsor Earth's petition for membership. First contact had occurred just 18 months ago, when a Xanteri survey ship detected Earth's quantum communications network. Since then, the exchange of information had been cautious but steady. The Xanteri seemed benevolent enough, if somewhat condescending. They spoke of bringing humanity into the civilized stars and helping them advance beyond their technological infancy. "Open a channel to the fleet," Reyes ordered. "Channel open, Captain," Communications Officer Liu confirmed. "This is Captain Reyes. In 10 minutes, we will dock with the Xanteri diplomatic vessel Enlightened Discourse. Remember your protocols. We are representatives of Earth and all humanity. The Xanteri technology is approximately 3 centuries ahead of our own by their estimation. We are here to learn, but also to demonstrate that humanity deserves a place among the stars." Rise out. The last part was important. Earth Defense Force Command had been clear: show respect, but not subservience. Humanity had clawed its way to the stars through determination and ingenuity. They wouldn't bow and scrape before any species, no matter how advanced. The Xanteri diplomatic vessel grew larger in the viewports. It was beautiful, a gleaming construct of some iridescent metal that seemed to flow rather than connected joints. No visible engines, no obvious weapon systems, just elegant curves and softly glowing sections that pulsed with inner light. Next to it, the 5 ships of Earth's fleet looked like industrial equipment, angular, functional, with visible weapon hardpoints, communication arrays, and engine exhausts. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. Receiving automated docking instructions, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced from the helm, "Their tractor systems will guide us in." Reyes frowned slightly. "Acknowledge but request manual docking permission. We prefer to guide our own vessels." Rodriguez relayed the message, then looked up in surprise. "They granted it, Captain. Though the response carries, I'd call it amusement." "Let them be amused," Reyes replied. "Take us in, Lieutenant." The docking procedure went flawlessly, Rodriguez's skilled hands bringing the Dauntless alongside the Xanteri vessel with precision that would have been impressive for any species. As the docking clamps engage, Reyes allowed herself a small moment of pride. The diplomatic party assembled in the airlock. Reyes herself, UN Ambassador Chen, Science Officer Dr. Okafor, and 2 security personnel. Minimal protection, as requested by the Xanteri, who had assured them that violence was unheard of in Concord space. The airlock cycled, revealing 3 Xanteri waiting to greet them. They were tall, willowy beings with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors slightly with their movements, currently displaying a calm blue-green. Their large eyes had no visible pupils, giving them an unsettling, all-seeing quality. "Ambassador Chen, Captain Reyes," the central Xanteri said, its voice melodious even through the translation device. "I am Diplomatic Overseer Valen. We welcome you aboard the Enlightened Discourse." The Xanteri made a flowing gesture with its upper arms. "We are pleased you arrived safely in your vessels." There was a subtle inflection there. Not quite mockery, but something close. Ambassador Chen stepped forward with a respectful nod. "Overseer Valen, we thank you for your hospitality and for sponsoring Earth's petition to the Galactic Concord." Valen's skin rippled with yellow patterns. Amusement, according to the cultural briefings. It is our pleasure. The Concorde always welcomes developing species. Your achievement in reaching space with such fundamental technology is commendable. As they walked through the corridors of the Xanteri vessel, Reyes couldn't help but marvel at the technology surrounding them. Doors appeared and disappeared seamlessly in walls. Gravity shifted subtly in different sections without any sensation of change. Information displays hovered in midair, composed of light that somehow felt solid. They entered a large chamber where representatives from several other species were already gathered. Reyes recognized some from the briefing materials. The insectoid Thrax, the reptilian Saurians, and the gaseous Nephri contained in their environmental suits. These are the Concorde observers who will evaluate your petition, Valen explained. They are most curious about humanity. Few species achieve interstellar travel while still utilizing combustion engines and projectile weapons. A Saurian diplomat approached, its scales shimmering with iridescent patterns. Fascinating, it said, examining the humans closely. Your ships still use reaction mass propulsion and physical armor plating. How quaint. Dr. Okafor stepped forward. We find that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most reliable. The Thrax representative clicked its mandibles in what the translation device rendered as laughter. Indeed, though one wonders how you expect to defend yourselves in space with such primitive technology. Energy shields and gravitic weapons have been standard for millennia. Before Reyes could respond diplomatically, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. The gathered diplomats looked around in confusion as Xanteri crew members rushed into the chamber. Overseer, one called out. Mephian pirates have been detected entering the system. 3 heavy cruisers and support craft. Valen's skin paled to a sickly white. Impossible. Pirates never venture this far into Concorde space. They've already disabled the system defense grid. The crew member continued. Our long-range communications are being jammed. Reyes stepped forward. Who are these Mephians? Valen turned to her, seeming almost to have forgotten the humans were present. A violent species excluded from the Concorde. They occasionally raid isolated colonies, but never anything this bold. The Thrax diplomat's mandibles clicked rapidly. How did they disable our defenses so quickly? Our technology is far superior. Reyes tapped her communication badge. Reyes to Dauntless. Status report. Commander Jackson's voice came through clearly. Captain, we're tracking 3 large vessels and about a dozen smaller craft entering the system. They're moving fast and on an intercept course. The Xanteri defense systems appear to be non-responsive. Are our systems affected? Negative, Captain. All Earth vessels report normal operations. Reyes looked at Valen. Our communications are functioning. It seems the pirates' countermeasures are specifically tailored to Concorde technology. Valen's skin shifted to a troubled purple. That should not be possible. Our quantum encryption. With respect, Reyes interrupted. Theoretical security and practical security are different things. It appears these pirates have found vulnerabilities in your systems. The chamber shook as the first weapons fire struck the diplomatic vessel. Our shields are failing. A Xanteri crew member called out. Their weapons are penetrating our defenses as if they weren't there. Valen turned to Reyes, desperation evident in its posture. Captain, your vessels are combat ready. Reyes finished for him. And apparently immune to whatever is affecting your systems. She tapped her badge again. Rise to Earth Fleet. Battle stations. Protect the diplomatic vessel at all costs. From the viewports, they could see the Earth ships detaching from docking positions, engines flaring to life. They'd moved with purpose, taking up defensive positions around the now vulnerable Xanteri vessel. What can your primitive ships possibly do against pirates with technology to defeat our defenses? The Saurian diplomat hissed. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes old-fashioned has its advantages. On the main display, they watched as the pirate vessels approached. Angular, aggressive ships bristling with weapon ports that glowed with building energy. "They're charging weapons," Jackson reported from the Dauntless. "All ships, initiate Protocol Faraday," Rise ordered. The Earth vessels suddenly released clouds of metallic particles that spread out in a defensive screen. When the pirates fired their energy weapons, the beams struck the clouds and dissipated, their energy scattered and grounded. "What is this?" Valen asked, skin now showing patches of astonished yellow. "Weaponized chaff," Rise explained. "A very old electronic warfare technique, updated for space combat. Your energy weapons are impressive, but they follow predictable physics. Return fire," she ordered through her comm. The Earth ships fired, not energy beams, but solid projectiles accelerated to relativistic speeds by electromagnetic railguns. The kinetic rounds tore through the pirates' energy shields as if they weren't there, punching clean holes through the lead vessel's hull. The gathered diplomats watched in stunned silence as Earth's primitive fleet engaged the pirates. The Dauntless fired again, its main railgun sending a depleted uranium slug through the command center of the second pirate cruiser. The smaller Earth vessels launched swarms of guided missiles that the pirates' point defense systems, designed to stop energy attacks, failed to intercept. "How?" The Thrax diplomat clicked in confusion. "Their technology should be ineffective." Dr. Okafor smiled. "The Mephians clearly adapted their technology to counter Concord systems specifically. They've optimized for energy weapons, quantum communications, and gravitic defenses. But humanity never developed those technologies. We took a different path." On the display, they watched as the remaining pirate vessels attempted to retreat, only to be disabled by precision fire from Earth's fleet. The entire engagement had lasted less than 15 minutes. "They're surrendering, Captain," Commander Jackson reported. "All pirate vessels have powered down weapons and engines." The chamber was silent as the Concord representatives stared at the humans with new eyes. Finally, Valen spoke, its skin now a respectful deep blue. "It seems, Captain Rise, that humanity may have more to offer the Concord than we initially believed." Rise nodded, maintaining her professional demeanor despite the satisfaction she felt. "We look forward to discussing that further, Overseer. But first, perhaps we should secure our prisoners and repair your vessel." The Saurian diplomat approached with a new posture of respect. "I believe," it said slowly, "that Earth's petition will receive favorable consideration." As the diplomatic team moved to deal with the aftermath, Rise allowed herself one private moment of vindication. Humanity had been underestimated for the first and last time. Turning the tide. The conference room aboard the Dauntless hummed with tension. Around the table sat Captain Rise, her senior officers, and a delegation of Concord representatives led by Overseer Valen. The mood was markedly different from their first meeting just 12 hours earlier. "The prisoners have confirmed our worst fears," Valen said, skin shifting in patterns of deep concern. This was not an isolated pirate attack. It was a reconnaissance mission for a much larger Mephian fleet. Ray studied the holographic star chart floating above the table. How large? At least 30 capital ships and over 100 support vessels. The Thrax military advisor clicked. A full invasion force. Commander Jackson whistled low. "That's a lot of firepower. And their countermeasures render most of our defensive systems useless," Valen added. "The Mephians have apparently spent decades studying Concord technology, identifying weaknesses we never considered." "Because you never had worthy adversaries," Dr. Okafor observed. "Peace breeds complacency in security systems." The Saurian diplomat's tail twitched in irritation, but it didn't contradict her. "Our 5 ships won't be enough against a force that size," Rise said, "even with our technological advantage of incompatibility." Valen's upper hands made a gesture of agreement. "We've sent courier drones through alternate routes to request reinforcements, but they won't arrive for at least 72 hours. According to the intelligence we extracted, the Mephian main fleet will be here in less than 30. Ray studied the data scrolling across her tablet. You said they've been studying your technologies for decades. That means they've optimized their systems specifically to counter yours. But they haven't had time to adapt to our unexpected methods. An advantage that will be short-lived, the Thrax military advisor noted. The Mephians are known for their adaptive capabilities. Then we need to keep changing the game, Ray said. She stood up and walked to the holodisplay, adjusting it to show the system's orbital paths. Our greatest asset right now is that they don't know what to expect from us. Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up. Captain, what about the magnetic pulse generator? It's still experimental. But Reyes nodded thoughtfully. Dr. Okafor, could we adapt the MPG for large-scale deployment? The science officer considered this. The generator was designed to protect Earth satellites from solar flares, not as a weapon. But with some modifications and using the Xantari power systems, she tapped calculations into her tablet. Yes, it's possible. We'd need to build multiple emitters and position them strategically. Valen's skin rippled with confusion. What is this technology? Another primitive solution, Ray said with a small smile. A scaled-up electromagnetic pulse generator. It creates a wave that disables electronic systems without permanent damage to biological life. Like our chaff defense, but more aggressive, Jackson added. The Saurian's eyes widened in understanding. You intend to disable their ships completely? Only temporarily, Dr. Okafor clarified. But it should give us a window to target their key systems before they can recover. For the next 24 hours, the combined Earth Concord team worked feverishly. The Xantari engineers, initially skeptical of the crude human designs, soon found themselves impressed by the ingenious simplicity of Earth's technology. As Dr. Okafor had predicted, the Xantari power systems could be modified to dramatically amplify the EMP effects. Meanwhile, the Thrax and Saurian representatives coordinated the evacuation of non-essential personnel from the station and prepared the few defensive systems that might still function against the Mephian attack. They're adapting quickly, Rise observed as she and Valen reviewed the modified defensive plans in her ready room. Your people, I mean. Valen's skin showed patterns of thoughtful blue. Necessity is a powerful motivator. I must admit, Captain, my initial assessment of humanity was incomplete. You mean you thought we were primitive barbarians barely out of our caves? Rise said with a wry smile. Not quite so harsh, Valen replied, yellow amusement rippling across its skin. But we have grown accustomed to technological progress following certain paths. Energy weapons, gravitic drives, quantum communications, these seem like natural evolutions. Your species chose different solutions. Not by choice, entirely, Rise admitted. We had to work with the resources and knowledge available to us. Earth isn't rich in exotic materials. We had to make do with iron, silicon, and ingenuity. A limitation that became a strength, Valen observed. Your railguns require no exotic particles. Your communication systems don't rely on quantum entanglement that can be disrupted. Their conversation was interrupted by the alert klaxon. Captain to the bridge, Jackson's voice came over the comm. Long-range sensors have detected the Mephian fleet. They'll reach our position in 3 hours. The bridge was a hive of controlled activity when Reyes and Valen arrived. The tactical display showed the approaching Mephian armada, a massive collection of warships moving in tight formation. Status of our defenses, Reyes asked. EMP generators are in position and charge, Rodriguez reported. Earth fleet is at battle stations. All 5 ships report ready. Remaining Concord vessels have integrated the modifications to their systems, added Jackson. They've taken up positions as planned. Reyes studied the tactical display, noting the placement of their forces. 5 Earth vessels, 3 damaged but functional Xantari ships, and a hastily assembled defense grid of modified satellites, against 30 Mephian capital ships and their support fleet. The odds are not in our favor, Valen observed quietly. They rarely are in the stories worth telling, Rise replied. She opened the fleet-wide channel. This is Captain Reyes. In 1 hour, we will engage an enemy force that outnumbers us significantly. They have technology designed to counter Concorde systems, but not ours. We will use this advantage for as long as it lasts." She paused, looking around at her crew, humans who had trained for space combat, but never expected to face it so far from home. "Remember your training. Remember Earth. And remember that today, we fight not just for humanity, but for all peaceful species in this sector. Rise out." The Mephian fleet approached with confidence, spreading out into an attack formation that suggested they expected little resistance. Their first volley targeted the Xanteri diplomatic vessel. Energy weapons that would have been devastating if not for the modified shields incorporating Earth's chaff technology. "They're testing our defenses," Jackson noted, probing for weaknesses. "Let them think we're struggling," Rise ordered. "Hold the EMP until they commit their main force." The Mephians pressed their attack, their ships moving closer in formation as they prepared for what they clearly expected to be a quick victory. When their fleet had reached the optimal position within the defensive perimeter, Rise gave the order. "Activate the EMP generators. All Earth vessels, prepare to fire on designated targets the moment they lose power." The space between the defenders and the Mephian fleet rippled with invisible energy as the electromagnetic pulse spread outward in a massive wave. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the Mephian ships began to drift. Their lights flickered and died, their engines shut down, and their weapons fell silent. "EMP successful," Rodriguez reported, excitement in his voice. 87% of enemy vessels affected. "All ships, commence firing," Rise ordered. "Target engines and weapons systems only. We want to disable, not destroy." The Earth vessels fired their railguns with precision, the hypersonic projectiles punching through the now unshielded hulls of the Mephian capital ships. The modified Concorde vessels followed with their own attacks, using conventional weapons systems that had been hardened against the EMP effects. "The enemy vessels are beginning to restore power," Jackson warned after several minutes of one-sided combat. "Their adaptive systems are compensating faster than we anticipated." Rise had expected this. "Implement Phase 2. Launch the drones." From the Earth vessels and the defensive satellites, hundreds of small drones deployed, each carrying a localized EMP generator. They swarmed toward the recovering Mephian ships, attaching to their hulls, and emitting targeted pulses that disrupted systems as soon as they came back online. On the main viewer, the Mephian fleet was in chaos. Some ships had regained partial power only to lose it again. Others were firing blindly, their targeting systems compromised. A few were trying to retreat, engines sputtering and failing as the drones continued their work. "Their command ship is attempting to coordinate a counterattack," Rodriguez reported. "They're adapting their communications to use modulated laser pulses instead of quantum channels." "Clever," Rise acknowledged. "Target their optical transmitters and prepare for manual targeting. They'll try to jam our computer systems next." The battle continued for another hour, a constant cycle of the Mephians adapting and the Earth Concorde forces countering those adaptations. Throughout it all, the humans' familiarity with primitive warfare proved invaluable. When digital targeting was compromised, Earth's gunners switched to optical sights. When computer navigation failed, they piloted manually. Finally, the remaining Mephian vessels, less than half their original number, broke formation and retreated, jumping to FTL as soon as they cleared the system's gravity well. The bridge of the Dauntless erupted in cheers, quickly tempered by the sobering casualty reports. 2 Earth vessels had sustained heavy damage, and one of the Xanteri ships had been lost with all hands. "They will return," Valen said quietly as the reports came in. "And they will be prepared for your technologies next time." Rise nodded, her expression grim but determined. "Then we'll need to come up with new ones, or older ones. The history of warfare on Earth is long and varied. We have many strategies they've never seen." The Thrax military advisor approached, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Perhaps the Concorde has focused too much on technological advancement and not enough on tactical diversity. Your ships, The Saurian diplomat added, "They are not elegant or advanced by our standards, but they are effective, adaptable, like your species." Valen's skin displayed a pattern Reyes hadn't seen before, a deep, respectful purple with flashes of gold. "Captain Reyes, when the Concord reinforcements arrive, I will personally recommend that Earth be granted full membership status, not the probationary position we initially considered." And the Thrax added that human military advisors be assigned to all Concord defense forces. "We have much to learn from your unconventional approaches." As the diplomatic discussions continued around her, Reyes found a quiet moment to look out at the stars. Humanity had come to this meeting expecting to be the students, the primitive newcomers grateful for scraps of advanced knowledge. Instead, they had become teachers. Earth's primitive warships, mocked and dismissed just days ago, had saved not only themselves but the representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, not through superior technology, but through the uniquely human gifts of adaptability, resourcefulness, and the willingness to try solutions no one else would consider. As she watched the Earth and Concord vessels working together to secure the system, Reyes smiled. Humanity's place among the stars would not be as humble students, but as valued partners bringing fresh perspectives to a galactic community that had perhaps grown too comfortable in its advancement. The stars had just become a much more interesting place.